Welcome to another episode of We Been New. And I did things a little bit differently this time. So I was so excited about starting Yurugu this past weekend, and I just kind of was talking about it just a little bit on Threads. And another Threads user that I follow and who follows me happened to see it on his algorithm. And we just exchanged a couple of responses to each other, and from there I was like, hey, well, would you like to talk some more about it? Sometimes I have an easier time of talking about things when it can be actually as a conversation where I can exchange thoughts and ideas. And so I'm very thankful that he agreed to kind of doing this little experiment with me. And he joined me today for us to have a conversation on Yurugu, on our connections to our African sense of being. We talked a little bit about religion, and I'm excited about how this is going to land for those of you who are watching this. So thank you. And with that, I present my conversation part one on Yurugu with JDaniel. Well, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for inviting me.
Of course, of course. It felt only right. I was, of course, reading Yurugu or started to read Yurugu chapters 1 and partially chapter 2 over the weekend, and I was excited about it. And so I know you were revisiting Yurugu. Like, first of all, how did you even come across the book, and how does it relate to your journey? And so,
Mm-hmm.
like, what was it that kind of made you think, I want to pursue some alternative perspectives here?
Yeah, I think I've always wanted to be a philosopher in a sense, actually. It's just like kind of lost that way along the way, and then I refound it. And I've always
Yeah.
been like, I think when it comes to philosophy, at least in this country, the default perspective is like Western European. And then that's kind
Hmm.
of not really, or at least that's what's popular.
Yeah.
That's what people think of when they think of philosophy is, and then like all of the greats, of course, are then described as Western European, whatever.
Yeah.
And then I kind of got influenced into like the more Eastern side of things as well, with like Hinduism and Buddhism, because I found that there's something there with the more dharmic philosophies of life in terms of like balance, and I don't even know how to describe it. That there's just like a different quality that was really appealing to me about them. And
Yeah.
then I kind of got to the edge of that, and I really, at this point, so I'm like racially adopted, so like my parents are white, and I'm so like at this point in time, I'm kind of like, maybe race does matter, and so
Okay.
yeah, and so like I'm like, maybe I should like look into the more like the things that people that look like me actually came up with. And that's
Yeah.
where all the like I notice all of these similarities between like the Afrocentric philosophy and say like Eastern philosophy, or just like the
Hmm.
connections in there in terms of like balance, nature, right
Yeah.
relationships. And yeah, I've just been on like a more like, I guess, decolonization path for a bit, because I'm just very interested in like this process that I'm going through, or have been going through. But at the time, I didn't always know that it was called decolonization.
And how long would you say this process has been going on for you?
Probably like 6 years.
Let's see, I'm trying to think. 6 years ago, 2020. What was 2020 a catalyst for you, or was it
Yeah,
before
I
that?
was I moved down to like the south from up here north, like northern Rhode Island, where I live with my parents, and so I kind of got the taste of like what is it like, because kind of like my whole life it's kind of been okay, like I know I'm black, but I don't like have this embodied experience of like being black and being seen as
Mm.
black. And I've never really thought ahead of time like, oh, like what happens when I'm like seen as black by the world. I wasn't raised like Christian at all. Which so I was raised more like secular or like kind of like I was kind of taught about like world religions kind of early on, so I kind of already had this idea that the one thing is not everything, and so
Yeah.
it's kind of alienating to know that ahead of time before most people are able to realize it. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's so religion is so interesting, and um there's parts that I can connect with in your experience of sometimes not feeling like embodying our blackness, right?
Hmm.
Even though, and I can't speak for what books you may or may not have come across yet, but I can absolutely give you some recommendations. You will find in reading through it, it's like, no, it actually was within you all, our Africanness is within us. And these ways in which we think we are not connected to our Africanness is actually from our from our worldviews being usurped, and from us being conditioned, missocialized, and miseducated to believe otherwise, right? So, like, I was raised Buddhist. My mom was a practicing Nichiren Shoshu Buddhist. She became a Buddhist when she was pregnant with me. Um, so that's what I knew growing up was, us going to the temple. And I remember feeling like an outsider because most of the Black people I knew were Christian, and everyone that my mom outside of the temple had around us, like if we're spending the night at a friend's house, like if it's a Saturday evening, I'm going to church with them on Sunday. But it was a very isolating feeling, and I remember my mom telling me that the reason she didn't practice Christianity, and this was her decision as a child, and she would be punished for it, was she didn't want to subscribe to or follow a religion that was used to enslave our ancestors. So it's like once she told me that, and I'm somebody like, okay, when something makes enough sense for me, I'm going to stick to that.
Yeah.
I'm going to stick to that because, yeah, like I can't really justify that. So that's why it's like there are certain aspects of my being and my living in the ways that I was told to speak, um, in the religion that was practiced, in us moving further and further away from Black and brown neighborhoods to move away from the reminder of the oppression, right? That is very much connected to race. And in doing that, and then in pursuing, corporate America, here I was separating myself from my Africanness, and understanding that I was also playing a part in my separation or my feeling of not feeling embodied. And I know in chapter 2, it actually talks about how the European Utamawazu, Utamarohu, and European ideology determine the nature of the formalized religious statement in the West rather than the reverse. And thinking about, yeah, I guess that would make sense. Like, why would you want people to practice spirituality or any higher sense of being? Like that, if people did, like naturally, certain things would make sense and certain things wouldn't make sense. And the shape of the world probably wouldn't look the way it looks today if,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's super interesting that you kind of grew up Buddhist and stuff. That's
yeah,
quite that's like it's kind of rare. That's kind of rare.
very, very rare.
Yeah, very unique experience.
And learning the word for, um, agnostic, because in college and as an early adult, I wasn't practicing anything. I was just being. And a lot of times I would often say, I just would try to be a decent human being. It didn't mean I was perfect, but I tried to be a decent human being based off of like what my conception or understand, like my understanding of right and wrong. Right?
Yeah, I think like one of the big things I've learned from like connecting more with like Black community and stuff is like I used to think that because like the source of like me thinking like I'm not black enough in certain situations, or like that, like the source of that was me being like transracially adopted by white people, but it's actually
Yeah.
like a universal like black experience. um just from time to time, like there's always going to be someone who thinks that they're blacker than you, or people that
Yeah.
have like very kind of small conceptualizations of what it means to be black, and you can just
You're
be
gonna and
outside
you're
of
gonna get your black card revoked.
that. Right. um yeah, and so I think that was probably one of the more, I guess, healing revelations of like, oh, it's not this unique thing about me. Oh, it's not, this isn't about me at all. Like, it's just what it
Yeah.
is.
And then I also think about in the context of religion and ideology and like how do you determine between right and wrong and good and bad? And it's like it's interesting to me because it feels like everything that has felt natural to me in terms of knowing the difference between right and wrong and good and bad, so to speak, even though I know that that is also looking at things from a very binary place. Um, I feel like intuitively, I've always known, right? We've always known, I've always known the answer to that. And it's interesting that we would allow ourselves to be misguided to some like to compartmentalize and rationalize and normalize um very wrong behavior, very bad behavior.
I just love where this is going because it connects to like the whole objectivity thing very nicely.
Yeah.
There's actually the study, maybe I can show it to you later. So it basically shows that so in Yurugu, she like kind of eventually gets into like this concept called like Cartesian dualism, which is the kind of whole like
Mm.
the mind body split that
Yeah.
like the say the European worldview kind of puts you in, like by
Yeah.
default. Like I remember talking about like for example in public school, right? They're like, oh, you gotta raise your hand to go, you have to wait to go to the bathroom, right? What's that doing, right? That's making
Right.
it so that you have to wait for approval to act on what your body already knows is true. And that's how you get like those like interoceptive type problems where you don't even know what's going on in your body because you've kind of been like domesticated and not in a good way.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and so it creates like all these like rifts in like the mind body system. Really
Yeah.
nasty stuff. Actually. And that's also how you get people that, at least in my opinion, that's how you get people that are like the big CEOs, Sam Altman, et cetera, or CEO of Palantir, who who thinks like, or maybe they don't even think this, but they think they're doing like a good thing, or they think they're on the side of the good, right? Um,
I don't know if I can be convinced that they think they're on the side of the, I don't know. Like,
I don't think the Palantir guy thinks so. I think he genuinely knows he's evil and he's just
you
rocking with it.
gotta know, like, you gotta know.
Yeah, maybe not the best examples I could have came up with. So the study was about how basically when people have this mind body split, when they have this like Cartesian like type dualism in their body,
Yeah.
what they choose, like how they choose to act morally,
Yeah.
they choose
Yeah.
things that are worse for the group but better for themselves.
Mm.
Because they're like disconnected from like their body's wisdom, and so they're taking like this detached perspective, this like analysis, this rational analysis of
Yeah.
of viewing everything in like this like uh hyper like quantified way.
As you were saying that, what came up for me was you separate, so it's like now you can't even trust your own body to know, listen, I gotta go to the bathroom, you're gonna have to just figure it out.
Yep.
um
Yeah.
and And then all of the years of like, yeah, navigating spaces, and not even just like professional spaces, but just spaces and relationships where like my body is trying to communicate something to me. I'm feeling unease, right? When I'm
Hmm.
interacting or engaging in with this individual or in response to this, right? And yet I'm in my mind, I'm doing all the mental gymnastics I need to do to like make that feeling go away and just like figure out like, yeah, just how to work through that. And um I think that that was very important in how she talks about like what was necessary to get us, you know, from to get us to where we are today, is like you're getting people to distrust their body and also by extension their spirit
Hmm.
to like what they know to be right or wrong or true or good or bad, again, if you're just thinking about it just from
Right. Right.
yeah.
Yeah, and this really connects to the whole religion thing very easily, because when we look at, say, like cults or organized religion or Christianity or whatever, um, like, and like particularly like their colonial variants, if we want to get super specific, but they are very good at at separating the mind from the body.
Hmm.
They're it's devious. It's so sneaky. I mean, it's very clear from my perspective, but it's sneaky in
Yeah.
how it works. So there's like a term for it. It's like thought terminating cliches, where it's like stuff like, let go and let God, or like all these other things where it's like you like
Yeah.
stop thinking, basically, or like don't question it, don't question anything,
Yeah.
basically. And if you question it, that's like against the religion, or you're doing something bad or
But you
something
know
like that.
what?
Yeah.
What makes that sinister is because, like, I feel like, so the ways that we naturally, like the ways that we understand spirit and all of and our own deification, like the way we understand it, like we are using it in its pure form. They will, and then what they did was they took that and kind of I don't know how to, like, okay, just trust it, right? You're saying like just trust it to prevent me from questioning. But then on the other side of that, it's like when it comes to spirit and ancestors speaking, just trust it, right? So you're saying the same thing there, but it is coming from a different place and for a different intention.
Hmm. I see what you mean.
And
Yeah.
then and think about like you're telling a people who naturally understand to just trust, right? People who are naturally inclined to do that, and then telling them that while also understanding you have them under these like really insanely like impossible circumstances that
Yeah,
you don't
and
want them to question.
right, right, and it also connects to the whole like ego thing, like
Yeah.
for example, right, like in like the dharmic philosophies, or like Hinduism and Buddhism, there are intentional ego dissolution practices that like make it so like your ego is in complete control of your life, and it's not like massive. But when we look at things like Christianity, at least in its popular form, they're
Yeah.
really they really don't care about that at all. They don't care about ego. Ego isn't like a main focus at all. There's not really any ego dissolution practices, really. And so that's why they're all about self denial and like surrendering, because they need to
Yeah.
surrender their ego, right? They got to like die symbolically,
Yeah.
and that ego is like actually like the whole Western European ego. I've noticed, speaking to like my white friends and stuff, like
Yeah.
their worldviews
Yeah.
don't exactly, and it could just be, I mean, it is because they're disconnected from like certain historical perspectives and certain things, but that's kind of like a product of it. But
Yeah.
it's also that like they'll make a claim like, oh, like we're all um we're like we all have like a god-sized hole in ourselves, and it's like nobody that's unique to you, and like things that say like your ancestors did to get you to this point, basically. And so
Yeah.
and now you're like universalizing it, and Marie Anita also talks about this like pathological
Man.
need to like universalize things. Um,
Yes.
and so they're like universalizing this thing that's like unique to usually white people is the truth. And then they're like casting it on
Yeah.
everyone else and saying this is the fundamental nature and condition of humanity. Like no, that's not how it works at all. Um,
Actually, this is antithetical to humanity. As I understand it, yo, that is there's so many things that kind of come up for me
mhm,
in that.
right.
Even seeing like someone posted on Threads today, this is the single electing Donald Trump was the single biggest mistake the US ever made, and I'm just like what? What
Yeah,
are we
yeah.
what are we doing? But we've been seeing that a lot lately with the Epstein
Mm,
files and all of
true,
these
true.
atrocities that we talk about as if it's never happened before, and it's like, hello, is this not how, like, is this not
Right.
what the forefathers were actively engaged in? I am so confused. There is no consideration of other.
Mm,
um and other is, it's very easy for things to be othered in in this particular fragmented worldview, but it just lets
yeah,
us know that there really is no consideration of other whatsoever. Like self is literally just confined to
their world.
um their world, and a very, very limited conception of self, which ironically, I'm going to ask you,
Mhm.
are you familiar with Dr. Linda James Myers?
No, but I probably should be, maybe. I don't know.
I'm definitely going to recommend her book to you. So she is an African centered psychologist.
Okay,
And about 40 years ago, she wrote the book Understanding an Afrocentric Worldview, An Introduction to Optimal Psychology, which I
okay.
came across her work at a very, very critical time as I was
Mhm.
studying industrial organizational and consumer psychology through my lens, and being like, y'all, wait a minute, we're not actually calling things out appropriately here in your version of psychology. Like, because again, if I'm understanding what is being taught here, there are some gaps. And then I came across her work. So she, in her book, has 9 different chapters, and there's one on like it that's moral, ethical, faith, and maybe even philosophical development, and it talks about the concept of um development. And for the past 2 weeks, we've been working for weeks together, but for the past 2 weeks we've been stuck on this exercise that I had created because I'm making a reflective journal for her book, so that basically it becomes your curriculum to like really help with embodying what we're learning, right? And
Mhm.
relearning.
Mhm.
And the exercise is on mapping your world and your concept of self. Is your concept of self just you? Is it you inclusive of your spirit? Is your concept of self those that you maybe share a roof with? Is it people that you spend time with frequently? Is it the larger community around you? Um, or is it the extended self, which is all of the ancestors, nature, the yet unborn, and all of that? And what we see very clearly is, and I think that's why we are more emotional about the things that are going on around the world, is because we have our sense of self spans larger than the sense of self that is required to continue keeping this going.
Right. That's very interesting, because I've read, a few books.
Yeah.
So I've read like a lot of things that I'm sure are mostly based on white people in terms of psychology. So like an Afrocentric understanding of psychology or whatever sounds super appealing to me. So like kind of like
I'm definitely going to send you the link for getting that book. Once I read it, I was like, oh my gosh. I would say it's probably, I wouldn't say it's a condensed version of Yurugu, but I think because I read her book and then
right.
am also in the process of rereading it in connection with this work that I'm doing with her, I feel like it helped me in starting to read Yurugu because Yurugu was quite dense. Her book is about 108 or 111 pages. Chapter one
Okay.
in Yurugu is 108 pages.
Yeah.
just chapter one.
Right.
But she gets into metaphysics, she gets into faith, spirituality, like literally all of the modalities and methodologies.
Yeah.
And um and to kind of bring it home, because I know we kind of weaved in and out of Yurugu. I guess what I would ask is, what does being a philosopher look like to you in this day and age? And I also think about, like, I was honestly thinking about like how I continue to engage in learning and liberating and living out loud. Like, what would that look like? And what did it look like for them back in the day? Like, how were their needs being met? You're a philosopher, you're not producing in the sense that our current culture only values. So, like, yeah, how does that look for you in this day? Like, yeah.
Okay. What was this question? Spent a lot of time thinking about work.
Yeah.
I'm sure every American has, but I mean it differently. I mean, like, I'm thinking about how I'm thinking about work.
Yeah.
So, so like a lot of the issues that we see right now in the United States, we're seeing like it's not like we have these 1950s like hand in a resume and just walk in, hand them your resume, get like a pension, and you're set for life. Go get your
It
wife
wasn't
and
even the fit. I was able to engage. I was
yeah,
actually able to like engage in that reality for at least 20 years.
yeah. I think things really switched up considerably in like the 80s and 90s to now. Um,
Yeah.
so like a lot of the things that people have built like their identity on or how they've designed their life. When is someone's growing up in our society, they're handed a framework on how to live their life. They might change it, switch it up, think for themselves to a degree, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's gonna have to start out dependent on like how it used to work to an extent.
Yeah.
And you might think that's how it works now, but then you'll be in a rude awakening when you figure out that like the map is not the territory. And so then you have to go back to the
Yeah.
drawing board. You got to redraw your plan because clearly and they even say like a lot of people nowadays they work maybe like 2 to 3 years at a place and then they go somewhere else to get higher income.
Yeah.
That's kind of been a strategy that would have been pretty unheard of back then. um
Yeah.
they would have been like what's wrong with you? And this also ties into this idea, the sociological idea of like what is an adult. And back then it was like you get a 9 to 5, you get a wife, you have kids, you buy a house, you be Christian, and you die. Basically was the
Yeah.
and so now the game is totally different, and that's why everyone's confused. That's why, at least in my opinion, a lot of men are in kind of a mess. Because like all of our ideas on like what masculinity are were kind of dependent on the material conditions of the world being a certain way, and now if they're not,
Yeah.
we have to confront this fragile idea, and then we have to go back to the drawing board. So I've kind of been like,
Yeah.
okay, so if everything that we've been taught is kind of BS, kind of fragile, what is the thing that is constant, or what's like the thing that I can reliably like iterate on
Yeah.
to move forward in time without having some fragile identity that's gonna make me like have an existential crisis in like the next
Yeah.
30, 50 years. And in terms of like work, most people in this country, like when you really think about it, they actually don't have a career; they have a job. And the way that I've learned that my brain works because I'm like neurodivergent, ADHD, whatever,
Yeah.
is I have this very clear like vocation of like, decolonization, liberation, philosophy, and I kind of want to continue doing this path and interacting intellectually and writing, reading, etc., and really just materially helping, taking my philosophical ideas to their logical conclusion and making a positive impact on the world, a legacy, if you will.
Oh,
Um,
I
and
love
so
that.
and so I don't want a career, but I need money because
Yeah.
philosophers aren't really known for being rich, and even if they were,
Yeah.
that would probably be controversial for reasons. But um,
Yeah, because
yeah,
then if
so
you're rich, that means you're getting employed by these crazies right now who are running things, and that's probably not the flex you think it is.
right. So the way I think about it is, I have the vocation thing, and then I have the job, which will be um trucker. So that's kind of
Yeah.
how I think about it in terms in terms of work. And then kind of everything influences everything. So like, because
Yeah.
I know that a lot of things aren't stable. Like, I'm not going to be invested in toxic masculinity. Like, what am I, like,
Yeah.
silly? Because that's not going to
Yeah.
last. That's going to collapse, and I can see it. I can
Yeah.
see like
Yeah.
yeah, like that's like, it's just not going to work out. And so that makes me do like inner work and challenge myself and et cetera, so that I have. And it also goes into the self-esteem thing, where um and a great book that really changed my life on this was like Feeling Good by Dr. David Burns. And it's crazy because
Hey.
there's like only 2 pages in that entire book that talk about self-esteem. And then like, because like the entire book is like all about like CBT, or like cognitive behavior therapy, and like how the book is like like bibliotherapy, and it's actually been used in studies to show that reading it and like applying it like reduces depression. I was depressed when I was reading this book at the
Wow.
time, actually, but um and just something powerful he said was that um the key to high self-esteem is to never like self-rate. And if you can do that, you'll just always have high self-esteem. And I'm like, that's that's because it's kind of weird. Um,
Yeah.
it's 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 only when people take a standard, and usually these standards are externally created or imposed. Like, oh, you're supposed to be a good employee and fly out and go to Germany, like, or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and if you don't, then you're a bad employee, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I'm not beating myself up with like these like artificially creative like measuring sticks that are made up, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, internalizing. But after you practice like mentally, you start to notice that, oh, I'm not doing it anymore. And
It's
and
actually
you
it's so
yeah.
freeing, isn't it?
Yeah. And so to have like a self-esteem that isn't rooted in like how my body looks, how much of like a man I am, or like how much money I have, or like all these other things that most people in this country are obsessed with. I don't know.
Yeah.
It makes me feel like, I'm like successful, just not in like the outward conventional like capitalist, like the way that, our
Yeah.
culture thinks about and values success. Like, I don't have anything I can like show you to flex on, but it's
Yeah.
there, and no one can take it away from me, is the thing.
I
And I
love
think that
that.
it's super powerful stuff. So
It
and
it really it really is. Yeah.
that's another thing. A lot of my growth, I think, as a person came from literally just reading. I feel like reading certain things has like literally transformed like my internal like landscape, or like architecture of like how I think about things. Because
Yes.
I have a very it's kind of weird, but it's kind of like I'm highly susceptible to uh hypnotization. So I enter like altered states of consciousness very easily.
Yeah.
Or easier than the average person, let's put it like that. And I think it's just my theory, but I think that that's why I'm able to like internalize like frameworks like Yurugu and like all these other things very easily. Also, there's another book. It's called Wetiko, like Wetiko, undoing the spell or something like that.
Feel
Um,
like I have heard of that title, and that is
yeah,
of interest for me
it's
to get
super.
into.
It is super similar to Yurugu. Like like almost basically the same thing. But it's not from like an Afrocentric perspective. It's more
Yeah.
from like a Native American's perspective on like, the white man and why is he like a bottom pit that's like spiritually inept is kind of what they're exploring.
Ooh,
Uh
yeah. This
yeah,
is this is this one's an interesting one because it's probably the most incendiary of the books
yeah.
that I have on my agenda to read this
Hmm.
year, and
Right.
I had to release
Hmm.
any attachment to who may or may not continue to follow me as I read this book and as I digest the information and then see and make the connections, you know,
Hmm.
for myself
Hmm.
on all of the evidence that has been made very clear. In fact, even when I spoke on it in my, I don't know if you checked out my last episode, but it was like literally like the president of this United States, like these are the things that he's saying today. Like if you're doubting what this is saying or you have a visceral reaction to it, I don't know what to tell you. You're going to have to look at who has been elected to represent what this is supposed to be.
Yeah. I think a lot of us fear like necessary well, I don't even know if I want to call it conflict, but like there's a point where maintaining the peace does not make any sense.
Yeah.
um
And my way of not maintaining the peace is I don't even have to be violent. All I have to do is have the same, I have to have the same, if not more, audacity to live in
mhm,
truth
mhm,
than people who would seek to continue to um, enslave us in all of the
right.
different kinds of ways to keep this facade going.
Yeah. Okay.
I would love for us to have
Part two.
more dialogue if you would like to. I know that I've got some things that I'm going to have to prepare to transition to, but I think that this was so cool. I and just for context, again, my podcast is very informal. It is not I don't like the I guess the agenda is getting through all these books. But in terms of like kind of the flow of the episodes, like I at first was trying to be a little bit more structured, but just in reality and respect to my time and capacity, I'd rather it be more organic because maybe others might hear things within the conversation or within the dialogue that get them thinking, and
Yeah,
that's really
absolutely.
what the intention is here is to just help to break um, help to break um, these patterns and these spells that we've been under for so long, that some that may be more obvious than others and some that may not be.
Right. Yeah. um I can keep talking, right?
Were you about to get into objectivity, or were you going to tell us how we can support you?
Was gonna do the objectivity thing, but we can do the support thing.
Yeah,
um
how can yeah, tell us how we can
okay.
find
Yeah.
you, your work.
Yeah, I mean, you can find me on Threads at JD Writes the Future. And then I also have kind of a blog newsletter, dharmaplusdissent.com. And then I'm also
Oh,
kind of,
okay, yes, on
yeah,
Substack.
and yeah. And then I'm also kind of working on a book the name is being workshopped, but it's kind of like a workbook guide type thing in
Ooh,
regards in
that's
regards
my
to
forte.
yeah, in regards to like living life as a black transracial adoptee, or even just a black person. Like black people will get a lot of things out of what I'm trying to do. And it's
Yeah.
all about like moving how to move towards wholeness in this like systemic holistic way.
I love that for you. That is super cool. I've got actually another book that I'm going to be writing based off of my master's treatise that I think you will connect to as well. But what's coming up for me is I definitely want to share the Understanding an Afrocentric Worldview book with you because I think that will be helpful, and then a couple of other books.
Absolutely.
I don't know what your research process looks like for it, but
Yeah.
I feel like they should hopefully be relevant to the work, to what you're writing and the work. And I applaud that you were um, I applaud the fact that you want to create learning journeys and pathways to help others of us make sense and to do what's necessary so that we can actually shift our collective reality, because this ain't it.
Facts. Facts. Yeah.
But it's been a pleasure getting to meet you. I love like how easy that was. I think it was like we talked a little bit on Threads maybe on Sunday evening. Here we are on a Tuesday, and it's like, hey, we don't know what this is going to be, but I think it was what it needed to be. And I thank you
Absolutely.
for
Absolutely.
for being my first official guest on We Been New.
Wow, I feel so honored now.
Yeah.